Yeah, so I'm Chris Jones. I'm the CEO of HomeLINK and also one of the co-founders. HomeLINK was founded about 4 years ago, and we were, primarily started to try and solve problems in social housing. So they faced, all these challenges from fuel poverty to trying to retrofit homes to net zero, increasing like cost efficiency whilst at the same time trying to keep rents low. It's very difficult. We saw all this great technology being developed in smart homes and IoT in other sectors, but no one was really targeting housing, so we tried to build a platform that would enable that, and that was our initial aspect. We went on a number of different accelerators in the early days, went through a few rounds of seed funding, ended up focusing the product around indoor air quality and sort of the health of the property and how that impacts the health of people. So now we're kind of really locked onto environmental efficiency and making sure that homes are the living, basically. And last year we were acquired by ACO, which is one of the leading supplier of smoke alarms in our sector. They've got a 9% market share. So yeah, with that partnership, it's really led us to on a very rapid scale-up journey over the past 12 months. It's opened up a new market for us, interestingly. So one of the new sensors that we've brought to market with ACO, temperature, humidity and CO2 sensor. There's absolutely massive demand for this at the moment because there's a requirement for businesses, offices, schools, hospitals to make sure they're well ventilated, and CO2 is the perfect technology for that. And so we've got a number of different ongoing projects around that. And I think in some other countries like Belgium, they've already made it a legal requirement for all businesses to have those. So I think it kind of really depends on like defining scale up. I think we probably thought of ourselves as a scale up as soon as the first pilot that we had wanted another properly connected, and we're like, yeah, we're scale up now. But I think over time you realise that there's different challenges that come with truly scaling up, and probably the moment that we started feeling those challenges was the day we were acquired by ACO. You go from being very flexible, being able to react quite quickly to needs of like individual customers that you know very well, to there being a need for sort of operational security. We've met a lot of cyber security, British standards and things like that over the last year. We've really focused on platform stability and preparing it for onboarding millions of homes rather than knowing that, well, as long as it can support 1,000 or 2,000 will be okay. We really had to do a lot of work on the product over the last year. So I'd say probably the moment that we were acquired, we started feeling some of those challenges, which I think would define it. But I would say in terms of numbers, we released this first joint product last week. Over the next few months, a lot of the IoT homes that ACO have are being transferred onto the HomeLINK platform. So by the end of the year, we're looking at sort of having 15,000 homes connected on our platform and probably 100,000 devices. I'd say that'd be the kind of lower end by the end of the year. So kind of like I was saying earlier on with the transition to scale, I think the probably the biggest, the most defining moment would be the acquisition, joining ACO, getting access to that market. There's ACO products in 5 million homes in the UK. That has had a huge impact. Getting access to a sales team of 30 people around the country that are already selling an IoT product that we can sort of fit into, access to marketing and all those kind of things has made a big difference. And then, as I said recently, the big defining moment, funny enough, was yesterday, which is the first kind of HomeLINK sensor going online via ACO's channels. That happened yesterday, and already in the last week, we'd expected maybe I think a few hundred sensors in the first week to go out, and there's been a few thousand already, and it's ramping up really quickly. So yesterday was probably that defining moment so far. Hopefully there'll be more to come, we'll see. And I think it's probably similar for a lot of other kind of startups as well. Kind of hear similar things, but I think it's really focusing. So when you first start, like the first few years, you're just kind of doing everything, taking any opportunity you can get. Even if like customers, saying they're interested in something that's almost like 90% different to what you were core offering, you're probably going to go for it to find something there. So what happens is after a few years, you end up with like lots of different kind of ideas going, and all at kind of different levels of product market fit almost. The challenge is that at some point you've got to decide, find the best product market fit you've got there and really focus down on that. And the reason you've got to do that is because you really have to define that challenge very well, make sure that lots of other people have got that challenge, and then just focus all the product development and marketing. Your limited resources, you need to focus all the product development on that, all the marketing messaging on that one thing. So one challenge is saying no to lots of opportunities that come away, because they will continue to come your way, and you've got to be able to say no to them, and sometimes it makes it feel like you're taking a backward step almost. And the other challenge is you've got customers that you're really good, got great relationships with. They're wanting to sort of carry on relationships, developing these other things which you're not focusing on. So one thing is saying no to opportunities, and another thing's kind of having to sort of move away from things that you were doing previously that you're actually probably not going to carry forward. Both of those are very difficult. Yeah, I mean, company culture, is always, I think, something that's kind of overlooked and happens quite naturally for people. It sort of happens over time. And yeah, it's overlooked and people don't really think about it, but actually it's really important. In terms of policies, we try and avoid creating any kind of frameworks or policies until they're absolutely essential. Otherwise, you end up kind of just sort of slowing yourself down. We found at the beginning when we were trying to be a bit too rigid with the way we did things. I think that the two best things that's been great for our culture on this journey over the last year or so. One is we've tried to break down as many silos as we had. So we used to have different stand-ups for different teams, and we've recently just completely made it one team. We've kind of created a mission kind of focused organisation rather than a building focused organisation, which has really helped. Those have been great for the culture. I think on top of that, after having been acquired by ACO last year, they've got a great culture as a company. And they've got a set of values, and since joining ACO, we've become pretty good at sharing information, giving feedback, all these kind of things, and it really does feel like we're the company as a result. There's a lot of trust between people, which is really, I'd say our culture's probably progressed actually, which is surprising. So I would say, and I said by the end of the year, there's probably, pessimistically 13 to 15,000 homes connected, and towards 100,000 devices. Given that that's the beginning of the journey that started now, I'd say by the end of next year, we would have really started that kind of exponential phase of growth, and really creating in many ways, a new industry. Smart homes for consumers has been around for a while. Not every house has a smart home device. Quite often it's sort of relatively gimmicky things around changing light bulb colours for things that have happened or whatever. But this is really the kind of the dawn of sensors that even non-technical people who aren't innovative or interested in technology are going to need, because it provides useful information like, is there carbon monoxide in my home? Is my home of a healthy environment? What's the ventilation risk and things like this? I think it's becoming quite standard. And there's also a number of different legislation for landlords that are very difficult to meet unless you have these kind of technologies. So yeah, it's very likely that we're about to go through a very, very big phase of rapid growth. Bristol's great because there's a lot of different universities, a lot of different tech companies. It's quite a big city. That means that out of everywhere, across the UK, it's one of the best places for people. People are basically the most important thing, particularly when you're scaling. Very, very difficult to get great people. That's the biggest challenge. So that's the number one for us, really. That's like an essential ingredient. And in terms of and then obviously you've got a great ecosystem, and things like TechSpark is an example of that. Lots of stuff in place to help support us. We used to be part of Set Squared right in the beginning, and that had huge advantage for us. I think we were on an IoT boost program, lots of advisors and mentors, lots of promotion and everything else. So that was huge for us. What's my favourite thing about Bristol? I just quite like the kind of culture of the city. Really, I think it's unique and sort of artistic and kind of quirky place. Which is probably can be a bit weird, but at the same time, I think that makes it pretty cool. Yeah, and my advice to them, particularly for B2B businesses, would be that, in the early stages, whether you're in the financial sector or wherever it might be, or in housing or local government or whatever it might be, the people that buy into you at the beginning are buying into a kind of idea, and for that reason, they're probably quite innovative people. They're naturally, they're excited by the idea, excited by new things, excited by technology in general, and they're great. They're really important because they get you in through the door. But when you're scaling, that same person might not be the person whose problem that you're solving. So you've got to make sure that you spend a lot of time speaking to the actual users, really, as I said before, defining that challenge that you're solving, making sure you're focusing on that product market fit, which will work for everyone else. And you know that you don't need to sell to the innovator person moving forward. It's got to be the person that you're solving a real problem for. And whether it was a technology solution or something else, they would have bought it. And that's the only way you can really get to that scale stage. And I think the key there, as I said before, is just keeping things as simple as possible, being as focused as possible on one problem, and that means saying no to a lot of opportunities.